And good day. Well, we have a treat for you today. We have the LA-15. And I wanted to bring this out to you. Now, let me define what flat broke is, which I am in the game. Um, I didn't even have enough to get the consumables on this aircraft, so this is the first flight, and I know nothing about this except what the base stats tell me, which tells me it ought to be fairly close, except in altitude, to the F-86A with cannon, and missing about 5,000 feet of altitude capability. More like 4,000, but yeah, what's a little exaggeration between friends? All right, I do not want to be the first guy in there and to catch the anti-aircraft attention. Sue me. And we'll get into this. Already I love the burst length on the guns. And it's very much equivalent to 420 millimeters. I've never flown the plane before, so it's going to take me a little getting used to. But I wanted you to share with me my first experience. And you gotta love how maneuverable it is. Just got myself right out of trouble there. Already I'm on his tail. He knows he now has made a mistake. You can think about it when he respawns. All right. Moving straight on. F2H. And of course he rammed me. Yeah. If there's a mechanic to ever consider the very first to take out of these aircraft, that would be the one I would choose. I don't care what you say, World of Warplanes, you cannot take two aircraft, have them smack into each other, and have anything more than an aluminum shower, and that's the end of the discussion. Alright, so we got our first whack at the guy. It's a Yak 15. And he is more maneuverable than I am, believe it or not. At the rate we're going at each other, we may have a second ram here. And sure enough. Yak 19, excuse me. Congratulations, World of Warplanes, you just improved the game. Sorry. There are some things I find just flat irritating. Don't get me wrong, I love the game, but, you know, there are some things I'd like to see removed, and this is number one. Alright. Yes, I said hi. Alright. Because of his drag, we're overshooting him, so we'll come back and take care of him there. Again, very nimble plane. It is not a Yak 30, however. And at Tier 10, it is one of the slower planes in the tier. Again, very similar to an F-86A. Now, altitude comfort level on this is going to be 6,500 feet. Just over it really won't make much of a difference. All I'm really doing with him is sending his tail feathers because I haven't got a decent lead on him yet. Which changed right then.
Receiving reports about rapidly deteriorating weather conditions. Support will be unable to reach you. Do you read me? Over.
That hurt. There we go. This is a very easy aircraft to get used to flying.
We cannot support you any longer. It's too heavy. Do you copy? Over.
You're going to hit the wall here. You can take advantage of that. Picking up the aircraft again. I'm going to clear my 6. Okay. Get back up to altitude. GA coming in. Want to keep that plant. And that's it. Not a bad first outing. I've certainly done better, but not a bad first outing. Okay. All right, let's line this thing up and do a second round here, and that way we can get a better idea of what we're doing next. Okay, I don't know the consumables. You guys don't need to hang around for that. Okay, so we have the new LA-15. And it is ready to go. I've had my first preliminary flight, which you've already seen,
You can do, pilot. Let's roll.
and I am anxious to see what can be done with this aircraft. And obviously its happy altitude is below 6,500 feet, which ain't bad. Alright, so you had our original flight with the aircraft,
Stay alert, pilot.
and you're probably wondering
Spotted over the airfield.
what I think of it. Well, what happens when you take a F-86
We've taken over the command center. Requesting support.
and you merge it with decent cannons and cut about 3,000 foot of altitude, because that is exactly what this aircraft is. Similarly equipped, you get 1/10 of a second difference in turn time between this and an F-86. And you get 3 23 millimeter cannons, which is pretty spectacular. And I am going to ignore the airfield and help my pilots down here, GA pilots, which to me just seems like a whole heck of a lot better use of my time. I just want to make sure that MiG is not following me down.
Reach their target.
Now, as you can tell, the firepower is more than adequate for the task. Is it the best thing out there since sliced bread? No. But it ain't bad.
We are losing
As for the MiG-9,
There are
well,
too many enemy aircraft.
no, it's not much of a competitor. Nose to nose, it will do like any MiG aircraft, a more than adequate job, but it does not compete in a turn. And I'm got a lot of enemy aircraft around here, and it's time for me to consider exiting the area. But we're going to hang on for a little bit because we still have friendly aircraft down here that desperately need our help. The 323 cannon in this is an actual strong point of the aircraft. As you notice, the aircraft, just like the Sabre, is a little slow. It's not a major deal, but it's something to be aware of. I'm keeping a close eye on my radar because I'm fully expecting to be interfered with here shortly. And I see an aircraft, I'm not picking them up just yet. Okay. Yes, we're shooting at darn near maximum altitude, or maximum range of the guns. And we've fixed that problem. Let's go see if we can help out our fellow pilots. around. And if I can finish killing this fellow. Yes, that helped. Let's get back to where we need to go next. I could desperately use some help here. And the 228 has somewhere between 900 and 2,000 and 1,000 points, depending on how he's outfitted his aircraft here. Okay. Come back, see what we can do to help here.
We have complete control of the skies.
I do appreciate the length of the gun burst on this aircraft. It is very nice. We've managed to capture the base. We should get some air defense fighters in here to help.
Hang in there. You'll soon be cut off from support. I say again.
If I'd wasted my time over the... I've got somebody on my tail, obviously. Well, no, it's just his tail gun. Okay, then we'll come back and help. It is a nimble son of a gun. Whatever else may be said about it. Gets the job done.
There's a heavy storm here.
And
Unable to proceed. Return into base.
the altitude comparison between this, the F-86, and the MiG are fair. Let's see if we can help out our fellow pilots here.
Head back home.
Voila. Alright, came in number 1. Flying Warrior badge. What's this? Hunt for a Stormbird. Hat trick. Effective fire. Subjugator. Hat trick. Said that before, didn't I? Top pilot. Flying start. And expert pilot. Not going to complain. Sorry, I forgot to turn off my phone there, and robocallers are just delighted calling me 7 times a day, whether I need it or not. Alright, so 10 targets destroyed, 1 assist, critical damage on all sorts of people there, capture points. Let's go with the summary. I didn't see the first one. Okay. And came in a comfortable number 1. All right. So, let's go over the points of the aircraft. The 323s, 2624 feet, 510 DPS. Survivability, 483, which is darn good. Airspeed, 311. Maneuverability, 9.2. Now you'll see where I start getting these. These could literally be lifted off the sheet of an F-86. look at an F-86. So let's go to altitude performance first. And 65, 62, which is enough to work with. That is not too much of a limitation. You start working at 9,000 feet, you're going to know it, right? But, 7,000, 8,000 feet is not going to present much of an issue to you. Let's go take a look at the F-86, because I made a comment here. The first thing, of course, is the guns, the much more limited range. It does have more hit points. But after that, cruise speed is 312 instead of 311. And maneuverability is 9.3. Now, these aircraft are both got the same gear on them. All right. So you can see where I'm getting my impression of the aircraft from. And to me, of the two, because of the guns, this is a much more enjoyable aircraft. Because you get a slightly better turning rate. You do not get all the altitude that the other aircraft, the F-86A, gets. But this is a fun plane. You get cannon armament, you get great turning circle, you got good survivability, if not as good as the F-86. You've got the same amount of speed, same thing to work with, but you got 323 millimeter cannon. You do suffer in altitude capability. This thing, of course, is capable of, you might as well say 9,200 feet, which means it can go after anything in the game. It doesn't suffer any altitude limitations whatsoever, really. Any altitude you want to name. If your check's in after an XF-90, well, okay, maybe that's a little different. When you start talking about something that's just shy of 10,000 feet, but not much and not likely to be the difference. The difference would be in the speed. So you're looking at essentially a slightly changed aircraft. Now, a couple of things about the F-80, I'm sorry, not the F-86, but the LA-15. And there's some things you should be aware of here, and I want you to be aware of them. All right, so first, this was a produced aircraft. There were some 235 of them produced. They were a direct competitor to the MiG-15. It was, in some ways, a better plane. And just like the MiG-15, they had a lot of accidents with the aircraft as it was actually put into operation. Both the MiG-15, the LA-15, and by the way, the F-86 were not easy aircraft to fly. These were the first mass production swept-wing fighters, and they could all be unforgiving. Now, the reason this is not up there with the MiG-15 was the Soviet Union took a look at what it had and both aircraft. And in some ways, the LA-15 was the superior aircraft. But it was more technically demanding to make. It was more expensive to make. It was also more expensive. And the differences were not so great as to make up for ease of production, cost of the aircraft, and the amount of sheer technological manufacturing difference that existed between these two aircraft. Well, that's a decision any government would reach when it starts looking at it and says, yeah, you get an aircraft that's a bit better here and there, but it's more expensive to make and takes much longer to make and demands more of scarce resources in manufacturing. Well, if you're the United States, is that going to make much of a difference? Maybe not. But if you're in the Soviet Union at the time where The technological base was ample, but the manufacturing expertise was a little wanting. Could make a very large difference, and that's why they came down to. They decided they didn't need two fighters that fulfilled the same role. And the MiG actually did have, we had but just over a 50,000 foot ceiling. This aircraft had about a 44,000 foot ceiling. And the true match for the MiG 15, and the one that flew up mostly against, was the F-86E and F. And those were coming in right at 49,000 and some change feet in service ceiling. You know, as far as I'm concerned, the Soviet Union at that time made the right decision. Now, today, we look at it through the eyes of 2018, and countries will spend any amount of money to get super duper, F-22s, the FA fighters in Russia and the Chinese equivalent, to get a superior aircraft, and they're willing to deal with making 50, 75, 200, whatever the case may be, and that's what they get. Different mindset then. All right. They knew darn well there were going to be lots and lots of, if they got into a war, there were going to be lots and lots of fighters shot down. You've got to go with something that's easier to produce and less expensive to produce, because you're going to have to replace them. And that's the case here. So that's where they came down. They made 235. By 1953, all these were disassembled, and their jet engines were used in an air-to-surface rocket. Okay, makes sense. But you're looking at a aircraft that went through design, through prototype, and actual production. It has every right to be here. It was in the Soviet inventory for a good 4 years. It's a good aircraft. It will absolutely do what you want it to do. It's a very effective fighter. It is every bit the match of an F-86A, and more than a match in the gunnery department. So when you start looking at this, this is a really good aircraft. And you'll notice that I have them equipped the same. Their pilots are equivalent. In my inventory, it's going to come down between you and another F-86 of whether you got it spec'd or not, how good you are as a pilot. All right, so LA-15, wonderful, wonderful plane. You're going to enjoy the heck out of it. It may be the third best fighter in the game. And by the way, in my opinion, this is number 4. If I was to rank these aircraft right now, because of better speed, altitude capability, and a wonderfully efficient gun, this is my top fighter. But anything beyond that, there's a 1 and, this is my number 1, and this is my number 1A, 2, and 3. That's how I rank these aircraft right now. All right. And on a bad day, you catch any aircraft that, you can still make the difference. And until they fix this gun, dead last. And it shouldn't be that way. This is a good aircraft. Great frame, great speed, great altitude. Crummy gun. That's how I rank them. That's how I see them. Listen, I appreciate you spending some time with me today. I hope this Please remember to like the video, to subscribe, and if you want to support the channel, you know where to do that too. Also, please keep in mind that this is my opinion. That doesn't make it right. It's just how I see it. I'll stand by what I say, and I'll give you the reasons why I say it. But like any Yahoo that's out here on the internet, double check your facts. Talk to you later.